You're listening to The Blind Chick, an AfterSight original podcast. We're telling you stories about strength, overcoming hurdles, and living experiences. We see who you really are. Blindness can be an adventure. Are you ready for the journey of a lifetime? We are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Blind Chick. That's Moses Street.
And that's Penn Street, the Blind Chick.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, we're going to jump in today with today's guest because we want to make sure that he has lots of time to share his story, and for us, because we have a lot of questions for him. So Moses and I are not going to diddle daddle today. So today's guest.
No diddle daddle?
We're not.
No diddle?
No diddle or daddle. No, not today. Sorry, Mose. Well, today's guest is raising the bar not only for the blind and low vision community, but he's also showing the world that vision loss is only a barrier, and it's only a barrier if we let it be a barrier. Evan, okay, I'm gonna practice. I've been practicing your last name, Schwabrock. Welcome to The Blind Chick.
Thank you so much for having me.
How did I do?
Very good. Love it.
You bet. And for the audience, where are you joining us from?
I am currently in Columbia, South Carolina at Fort Jackson.
Okay. Wow. Are you getting all the hot weather?
Oh, it's so humid all the time. We took our dog out for a walk after 7 last night, and I was still getting attacked by flies and all kinds of stuff. So I am still acclimating for sure.
That's the reason to live in Colorado is we do have bugs, but not so many of the pesky kind. So
yeah. Well, Evan, can you share your vision loss diagnosis with us and how it led you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I came down with Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy back in November of 2014. I'd been wearing contacts and everything like that, and I wasn't the best at like refilling my prescription or anything like that. But I all of a sudden in late November then had some different instances that made me go, I need to go to the eye doctor and like just double check my prescription and all. And it got pretty extreme before I actually made it in for my appointment when I was playing in a local volleyball league. And I was forced by my wonderful friends to play a lot of volleyball in college and was pretty good at it, especially for like the small town that I'd moved back to. And I was playing, and the week before I had done really, really well. And then all of a sudden, like the lights were bothering me this next week. And I actually got hit in the face. And it was from a spike from my former 8th grade teacher, which was kind of funny. So sometimes I tell the story by saying my teacher hit me in the face. And like that had never happened to me. I'd never gotten hit in the face with the spike. And I was like, I didn't even see it coming. So I was like, that's weird. At least I got that doctor's appointment. Later in the game, I tossed the ball up to serve, and I got kind of lost in the lights. And I just was like, oh, no. I randomly swung, and I managed to hit the ball, but it landed about 8 foot in front of me. So I'm sure my teammates thought something was terribly wrong. And after that very poor performance, I was never invited back by that team, actually. I was kind of brought in as a ringer, and they realized I think he's lost the gift. So I then a couple days later had a what I call my death ride back from Peoria, Illinois, back to my hometown in Kewanee, where I was doing 30 on the highway. It was mildly foggy, but it seemed way foggier to me, and I could see kind of the white line on the side, and then kind of the hash marks for the lanes. And I had semis passing me, doing double my speed and everything, and then where I'm from out in the country, there's no road lines or anything like that. It's just like gravelly-er part of the road and then normal-ish road. So I was literally driving by feel in order to get home. And I was like, yeah, something's really not right here. Went to the doctor actually the next morning, the eye doctor, and this was a very tough, gruff former Army doctor who was very matter of fact and everything. And once we figured out that nothing could be fixed from the front, he took a picture of my nerves, came back, and this really tough guy was almost crying. And I was like, "Yep, I think it's that disease that runs in my family and could potentially pop up with me." So kind of that day we knew that it was Leber's, and started hitting the road with adapting from there.
That's awesome. Where did you go to get your training for independent living skills?
I went to Hard Knock University for that. So
You're
I
not
kind
the
of
first person.
just kept doing my jobs. I drove home and I put my keys away, and everybody knew like my truck's name. I was that I love my truck so much. But I quit driving that day and immediately moved into how am I going to continue adapting, because I was working several jobs in the fitness industry at multiple gyms, and I wanted to make sure I was still able to do that. And it was kind of like a gap year before going on to grad school. So I was in the midst of applying to grad schools. At that point, I quit applying anywhere else. My sister was going to the University of Illinois, Chicago, and I knew that I would have a support system if I went there. And so I really just put it in God's hands and said, I'm only going to apply there. And if I get in, then that's where I'm going. So like I need to go there. Fast forward to that next summer, and I moved up to Chicago and was trying to settle in and figure out where my classes might be and all that stuff with my sister.
Yeah.
And I kept tripping over all these random stairwells that are just popping out onto the sidewalk for some silly reason on the Chicago street, and almost doing face plants on concrete and everything like that. And eventually my sister goes, "You need a cane like this one." I was like, "No, I really don't. I don't want one. Like I'm not willing to take that step." I was still in plenty of denial. And she's like, "The Lighthouse for the Blind of Chicago is 2 blocks from us. We're going there right now." And I was like, "No." She's like, "This is happening." So we go and we buy a cane and I start using it. So all my independent living skills, all my O&M for the first 2 years, everything was all self-taught.
Yeah. So, well, then this question is near and dear to my heart, because to me, it's when you lose the sense of sight, and then you learn how to see almost on a level with people with eyesight, that jumps your brain cells, because you've learned to see with your other 4 senses, which us sighted people can't even conceive of. And that brain activity that it takes to make that skill happen, to me, creates a superior brain. And so to me, it's like blind people are like X-Men, they have these superpowers, but yet society's afraid of them. And so going along with that is that even though you are usually the strongest and healthiest person in a room, people will still treat you like you are disabled. And what do you do to change that mindset?
A great question, and you're speaking my language. I'm literally sitting here at my desk with a Superman statue right next to me. So big comic fan.
Superman is my favorite one.
Oh, really? That's wonderful. I was in a Superman shirt at the gym yesterday, so absolutely love it. Okay, so before we go down that rabbit hole,
yes,
yeah, it's crazy how much you'll still be doubted. So. Immediately, I had issues with people doubting me because they knew that I had a visual impairment, but didn't even totally understand it. Again, I'm from a small town. Word got around, and of course, it's like playing telephone. It's going to be misconstrued like crazy. There's been all sorts of other instances of people doubting me. I had a professor try to talk me out of grad school within my first week and tell me that I belonged at a different school in Oregon or something like that, and that I wasn't cut out to even try there. I had people just say, "Oh, it's great that you're even at the gym." And I was like, "I just deadlifted 500 pounds. This should be a meritocracy." They don't see it that way.
Bless your heart. I love that one. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not a mascot. And then I'm still going through different legal issues, actually, because I was a strength coach for the Army. And right from the get-go, when I walked in with my white cane, was immediately judged. And it was thought that I wouldn't be able to do my job whatsoever, and was discriminated against, allegedly, and wound up being fired and all that stuff. So still going through all the legal issues of people having that immediate doubt and thinking that because of their perceptions about what a disability is, or just assuming things, it can certainly get in your way and cause some more obstacles than are necessary.
Yeah. Did you get, well, when Penn was job hunting, first they wouldn't believe that she'd gotten there by herself, and they would like check the hallway, and then they would spend the interview time trying to trip her up or get her to hit things and fall over things and hide things and that kind of stuff. Did you run into that kind of crazy sighted people thinking?
Yes, definitely. One of the reasons that I was told that I was fired from this last job was because I wasn't able to operate and like train soldiers in austere environments and hike around and stuff, which I was never tested on. They just assumed I couldn't do it. Meanwhile, I don't drive. So in the middle of the winter in Alaska, in negative 30 and even lower degree temperatures, I was walking to and from the gym through the snow and everything just to get to the gym. And like you go to the gym and then people be like, hey, be careful, there's a moose in the parking lot. Like that was my everyday life. And they're like, oh, he can't be outdoors. So yeah, it's the silliest things that people just don't understand.
Yeah, that type of thing drives me crazy.
Absolutely. It's an acclimation process, and that's kind of the beauty of visual impairment, is it's such a spectrum. I work with a lot of other blind people, and I think it's super fun figuring out what level of vision there is. And also there's like cognition that comes with it as well. Like, how much are you able to work on your movement or take in different audible cues and everything like that, while also controlling what little context you get from whatever level of vision that you have. So I think it's super fun being able to acclimate to how each visually impaired person needs a different level of care and just understanding.
That's fascinating, because on another level, I do that with photography. But for you, it's like, have you got a system? Could you talk about that a little? For figuring out their cognitive, and all their abilities? Yeah.
So I'm also kind of called like the blind strength coach, because I work with people who are blind when it comes to fitness and all. So I'm usually thinking about like movement or exercise. And what I'll do is right off the bat, I always ask, because I'm visually impaired too. And I love just kind of putting it out there like, hey, I'm visually impaired as well, and I want to understand what your level of visual impairment is. I bluntly ask that. What's your level of visual impairment? And then I also ask, are there other symptoms? Whenever I'm speaking to like medical doctors or anything like that, everybody focuses on the eyes when it comes to us blind people.
Right.
But there can be other issues as well. Like my disease comes with some neuropathy in my hands and feet, so I have to learn how to control that as well. So asking people about their disease or whatever their affliction is, and then what extra comes with it as well, I think is super important to then be able to understand them better as a total person, because there do tend to be a lot of other symptoms that also heavily come into play. So I'll ask about that. And then when it comes to actually coaching, what I do is make sure it's accessible to us as blind people. So I have a system where I use extrinsic tactile cues, where you can feel that something is happening to you from your environment. Like me, if you're like your knees are caving in on your squats, I'll press in on your knees harder and tell you to fight me and try to push your knees out. And so once you get that external cue, then we can turn that into, hey, you feel when you're doing that right, how that feels in your hips and your feet and everything. Like, oh yeah, and like where your knees should be in position compared to those two things. Once they get that intrinsic tactile cue, then we can turn that into an audible cue and just say, hey, push your knees out. And then they know the sensations they should be looking for. And then we're able to really quickly cue those things appropriately. So that's how I tend to make sure things are more accessible. And then I'm able to detail things well enough depending on people's visual impairment as well.
That's awesome. Because I do know, as a blind person myself, it going into a new gym is always like so daunting. Because people don't put equipment away, or they move the benches, or they or whatever, and even having a trainer. I this year I took swimming lessons for the first time, and I wasn't so nervous about the class, and I did purposely hire a person because I didn't want to be in a class environment. But it wasn't about her technique or anything. It was more about how is she, as a sighted person, is going to deal with me as a blind person. But she was really awesome. Like the whole first class, pretty much all we talked about was what I could see, couldn't see, how I liked, what was the best teaching environment. So it sounds like that's what you're doing too, is that first, encounter is to figure out the ideal situation for them to learn.
Absolutely. And then I do a lot of my remote work and workshops, all that stuff, obviously virtually. So I try to make sure that I have different articles or resources available for people to make sure that they understand a lot of these little tips and tricks that can make things a lot easier for them. So when you were talking about going to a new gym, I actually have on my website a gym acclimation program people can download for free and go through, that helps kind of stair step them into the gym, so you're not overwhelmed by all the crazy stuff and what specific things there are. Instead, we kind of chunk it out so that you're able to learn in a more manageable way. So we're not getting overwhelmed, and we're focusing on the right things at the right times and being able to slowly branch out from there. So it's a bit of a better experience for all of us.
A lot of people who are blind and low vision do become entrepreneurs because of that getting hired that we were talking about earlier. And you created Kane and Able, which I love that name. But tell us more about that, about your website. And I know you do a variety of things with Kane and Able. Can you share that with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So the doubt that we talked about earlier is really why Kane and Able Fitness was started. I realized if I was as credentialed as I was, so before my visual impairment kicked in, I had just finished my bachelor's in health science. And then after it kicked in, I went and got my master's in kinesiology with concentration in applied exercise physiology, certified strength conditioning specialist, certified personal trainer, fitness nutrition specialist, different stuff. So even though I was credentialed, I'd worked in the field, all this stuff, and I still had people doubting me or being like, wow, you're even here. And I was like, if I'm being doubted this much, I started competing in strongman, everything back in 2017. And it was still just like, wow, you're participating. And I was like, man, if I'm getting this kind of treatment, how bad must it be for everyone else with visual impairment? So like in 2019, I won Illinois Strongest Man outright for my weight class. And I got first place in every event against a bunch of sighted guys. So like, and it was still like, oh, that's cool. You did it. So 2020, we had shut down and everything. And it was time to be able to produce a lot of content and get a lot of things ready to be able to launch. So in July of 2020, me and my brother launched Kane and Able Fitness, and we have 50 something articles all about fitness and nutrition, different health aspects for people with visual impairments. And sometimes it's not even a giant overhaul or being really over the top about overly adapting things. Instead, it's understanding those little things that apply, and then or going over a general concept and then making it accessible through just a tiny little tweak. So all kinds of articles about that. I also provide remote exercise programming for people. So you can sign up for that and get weekly updates, check in through WhatsApp, everything like that. I have many people do that and be able to personalize things for them. I also provide different workshops, and I have some online courses, including one that is called Upright. It's a fall prevention program that is made more accessible for especially elderly people who are losing their sight via glaucoma, macular degeneration, something like that. You tend to get people around retirement age who are also going blind. And there's
Yes.
two reasons society then tells you, hey, just chill. You can sit on the bench. You're about done, because you're retiring and you're becoming disabled, which is a terrible thing, apparently.
Yeah.
So made sure to make an accessible program for that. And then we also have another program called Get a Grip with the Blind Strength Coach that is all about being able to build up your wrists, hands, and forearms in order to make sure that you're able to do good activities of daily living, not have grip issues, but then also make sure that those tissues are ready for the rigors of using a white cane in order to be more independent.
Yeah.
So, those are some of the things we have. And then I also provide workshops and speak at conferences and everything like that, where organizations will bring me in order to put on different types of seminars where I integrate a lot of movement and make sure that people are getting a lot of huge takeaways from that. And usually we get to break down after our group stuff into some one-on-one sessions, so I can make sure that everybody has some very important things, and it gets a really big boost to their capability and their understanding of just how capable they are.
Yeah, and I'm guessing because we have a 10-year-old grandson, and he is fanatic about getting into really good shape. So I would guess that when you're working with the kids, the enthusiasm is huge.
Sometimes, and that's always really great to see, but oftentimes it's almost been like, oh, exercise is inaccessible, or exercise is like I'd rather be playing video games or whatever. So wherever they're at on that continuum of enthusiasm, I always like making sure that they're further along, more toward the enthusiastic side. Whenever I'm doing my presentation at conferences or whatever, whenever I'm talking about how, like, what considerations you need to make for children, it's always make it fun. Like the youth fitness program that I ran back home, like the best day ever we had was the floor is lava, and we had all these different obstacles. Yet, and like I played it like magical chairs, or where we slowly pulled away an obstacle and you had to like jump to the next thing, and like whoever was last was like treated like the king for the day. So it's just those silly fun things that we can integrate activity and movement. That really fosters them understanding that movement doesn't have to be punishment. You don't just have to like run stairs or be stuck on a treadmill or something like that. Instead, it can be a fun expression of just how capable you are. So that's always my goal.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's exciting. And thanks for sharing your story with us today. I think diet health, physical fitness health is hugely important. And so for the last question is, what do you want to your takeaway to be for our audience, and how can people find out more about you?
Great question. I'm glad you said takeaway. Again, we're speaking the same language. I'm so huge on takeaways. Nobody wants to just sit here and listen to me yammer on about lifting stuff. So the biggest takeaway is I would say, so obviously Kane and Able Fitness is based off the Bible story. I wanted my biblical reference in there and everything. But there's another biblical reference in the book of Judges where Samson winds up being blinded, and everybody thinks, oh, he's not strong anymore. They cut his hair, that whole story. If you want to go in the book of Judges and read that, you'll understand all of what I'm talking about. But it winds up that in the end, he was still able to serve God's will, even though he was blinded. And there's also a story of people asking Jesus, why is a man over there blind? And he was like, he is still able to show God's will and glory. So I want people to understand that just because you are blind or visually impaired or whatever disability you have, you still deserve to be plenty confident because you are plenty capable. I choose to show that by like competing in strongman and lifting things, even though I was a tiny little nerdy kid and, Superman statues all over the place and stuff. But however you want to prove your capability to yourself and then to the world, go for it. And my work is just to help be a vehicle to help you understand and encourage you that you are plenty capable physically as well, and then capable of learning, capable of just doing whatever the heck you want. And my work is to help you become much more physically fit. So then you're able to enjoy life. You're able to go on fun adventures. Like I know your guys' organization did a really cool hike. I want people to be just prepared enough to enjoy life to the fullest.
Yeah.
So a follow-up question on that is that when people are getting into it, they come to you, they get excited about working out, then them starting to get in really good shape, possibly for the first time, does that then kind of jumpstart them into careers or other parts of their life? Have you had any follow-up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I see physical fitness as a way of learning that you can set a goal and then work hard at it diligently and consistently, and then you'll be able to do that. So let's say you're bench pressing 100 pounds, and then you follow a 6-week program, and then after that you can bench press 120 pounds. That's because of, you put a plan into place, set a goal, and then understood that you could achieve it. And then once you're able to do that in the gym, you understand that you can do that in the rest of life as well. Plus, it's really good mentally. I've had some dark times. I kind of gave myself 2 days after my prognosis of, hey, my life is going to be very different now. I just sat and digested it for 2 days, and then it was off to the races. It was back to cleaning horse stalls and working at multiple gyms and everything like that in my life. And I think that time in the gym can be, even if you're going through some really tough times, that can still be the brightest part of your day, where you know that you still accomplished something and made something of yourself in that day. So definitely huge on using the physical fitness aspect to then amplify the rest of your life.
Yeah, I
totally agree.
The foundation, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Evan, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And I know you were also on Game Changers. So if you guys haven't found Game Changers on your podcast list, definitely go check it out. Evan he shared a lot more about his career on there. So definitely go pull up that episode. And I also want to thank Aftersight, because without Aftersight, this podcast would absolutely not be possible. So, and Evan, thank you for being the real live Superman that's out there, and because I really believe that. So.
Yeah, you don't know what a compliment that is to me. I really appreciate that. And for everybody listening, please absolutely go follow Kane and Able Fitness on Instagram. Go to our website, Kane and Able Fitness, spelled CANE and ABLE Fitness. Sign up for the newsletter. Stay in touch. Please reach out if you need absolutely anything from me.
And I did that this morning. I started following you on Instagram, and you have so many amazing videos on there. So I'm already a fan, already a definite fan. So, and thank all of you out there. Like Evan said, it starts. You just need to start and use resources like Kane and Able to get your butt off the couch and start moving, and whatever that means for you in your life, because it really does lay a foundation for all corners of your life once you feel a little bit better and a little bit stronger. And of course, everybody, you know what to do. Be kind to yourself this week and find a way to be kind to somebody else. It's good for your soul.